Somebody is very grateful that you have taken an authentic approach to them and this situation. This is somebody who feels like they have searched a very long time to find somebody like you. This is somebody who recognizes that this is a rare connection that the two of you share, or people like you don't just come around every day. This is somebody that might be in the midst of not so much overthinking, but it feels like kind of a deeper level of contemplation in terms of next steps that they take towards you that will let you know that they have noticed, they appreciate, they value the fact that you are a very authentic person who is offering them a very authentic opportunity in love and romance, or you're showing up in a way that honors your personal truth and who you are. Like, you're not playing games with them in any sort of way. You're just like, this is who I am. This is all of me. This is what I'm revealing to you at this point in time, not for the purposes of, misleading you or trying to project like a false image of myself and get you hooked to that. But it's almost like you've reached a place in your journey which aligns very much with what this person has been kind of secretly searching for, secretly hoping to find, but never really knew if it was possible. Of somebody that's just like, I'm done with the games. I need to just kind of like put myself out on the table. I need to not waste my time or another person's time seeing if we match, seeing if there's compatibility. And the only way to do that is to, get rid of the pretenses, get rid of the inclination to sort of dance around the truth, or, to be kind of like overly coy or mysterious if it's not something that is like a natural part of your personality. And so the ways in which you've kind of like exerted yourself in that fashion, you've expressed yourself in a way that is very true to reality. It's something that's very true to the core of who you are, and you've shared that with this person. This is registered for them as like a very profound kind of, green light for them, as far as like trusting in this, trusting in their ability to take steps necessary to navigate the next experience with you. Something where they're kind of relaxing into an energy of like, it's safe for me to be hopeful about this situation. Because so far what you've shown is a lot of transparency with them. It's also a great degree of appreciation, recognition, or mindfulness in terms of like authenticity that they've shown you, both in the form of like personal boundaries and times where they've opened up to you. It's like the ways in which you've stimulated that authenticity within them, and you've rewarded them for those kind of displays of the truth of who they are, not the mask, not the facade, but those peeks behind the curtain. This is something that really aligns with, again, what this person was like wanting, was hoping that they would find, but that they weren't certain if it was something real, if it was something out of reach, if it was something that existed. It might have even been something that they could have said to themselves, like, yeah, I'm gonna have to work through this process of like really showing up as myself, being willing to kind of, lay all my cards on the table and sort of risk rejection, without kind of being fearful of that. Kind of like, okay, what passes me by is not meant for me, and what is mine shall not miss me. Like that same sort of approach or philosophy that you've taken with them in this circumstance, or just with your life in general at this point, and how it's trickled into this dynamic, these interactions with them. This is something that this person is like really grateful for. It's resonating with them on a deep level. It's encouraging them to want to invest more in this connection, want to trust more in this connection, want to kind of honor where they're at in terms of a level of being comfortable kind of sitting in their feelings or in the nature of the dynamic between the two of you, but then also be very proactive to take steps forward. Because again, there's like people like you don't come along every day, or they've not yet in their life up to this point aligned with someone who is so in sync with those kind of like core requirements of truth, honesty within a connection. Something where it feels like in previous circumstances, or like a recent circumstance, there may have been something where they became very enamored, like with an illusion, or they sold an illusion of themselves to another person. And then time went by. Maybe they got into a long-term connection. those masks came off, and the reality of who both those people were, behind closed doors, or like who they are when sort of there's no like need to perform, there's no audience. It's like the reality of that was very incompatible. So this person has kind of sought to find the opposite of that. They don't want to go through that kind of experience again, or to put somebody else through that experience. They see it as kind of like a waste of time, or something which might have created like unnecessary heartache. Like if we'd just been honest with one another, if I'd just been myself up front, then, it might have been something that I wouldn't have found myself in that circumstance and situation. If the other person had been honest up front, I wouldn't have, pursued them as hard as I did, or I wouldn't have stuck around for as long as I did, or things wouldn't have kind of escalated to that level of the nature of whatever happened. Maybe this was a previous marriage, a previous relationship, somebody that they were like dating or very exclusive with in a long-term sense. And so with you, it's kind of like efforts that this person has made to call something different into their reality, or almost like a secret prayer and hope that they've had inside of like, please let me meet someone that is like tired of playing games, because I'm tired of playing games at this point in my life, and I need that from another person. That there are things that you have shown them that, it's kind of like it will continue to take time in order to sort of reinforce that belief that that is the reality of this current situation. But everything is sort of signaling to this person, like they're relaxing in their energy, they're relaxing in your presence, they're relaxing in thoughts of what the future can hold between the two of you, because you've shown them something very genuine, very real, very different from what they thought they would find at this particular point in time, maybe so soon after they kind of made that promise or that vow to themselves. Like, yeah, I need to, if I want somebody that's not going to play games with me, then I need to show up authentically as well. And here you are, they've called you into their reality. So this is somebody that wants to continue to, sort of do right by you in this situation, to show up as their most genuine self, to kind of give you some reassurances that ways in which you've been doing that so far as well have been noted, have been appreciated, have been received by this person. Even if it's things where you've demonstrated boundaries, or, you've kind of like not gone with the program that they've set in motion. In this connection, you pushed back a little bit, you honored your personal truth. That's something that they respect a lot. So it feels like this is somebody that, might have kind of called someone in that was sort of like codependent, kind of like a people pleaser, and there might have been like a lot of kind of unhappiness kind of simmering beneath the surface, that then when that came forth, when that, became out in the open, then it was kind of like too little too late to do anything to course correct, because it had been building so steadily over time. So in this situation with you in this present moment, they see that like, yeah, okay, we're building something different. This is a different experience. We're two people who are showing up within the sovereignty of ourselves. We're not trying to make all the pieces fit. We're not trying to make it align totally and perfectly, but we're showing up as our human selves. We're showing up as that kind of like imperfect masterpiece. And there's something within that this person really sees is like, yeah, this is what I'm needing. This is what I'm looking for. This is what like the adventure of love and romance, or getting to know someone, what it should be like. We have time to reflect. So this person sees a lot of themselves in you in terms of like how you've been showing up in this connection. It reveals to them certain needs, wants, and desires that had gone unfulfilled in previous circumstances, that you're like, well, if I hope to find that within another person, I need to bring that to the table myself. It's like the idea of becoming the love that you're seeking. This person recognizes that, you may have had to kind of change your approach. You've had to change your strategy. You've had to change kind of the tactics that you use in dating. And it feels like the tactic at this point is just sort of like raw honesty. Kind of like, this is who I am. Are you cool with that? Do we go forward? Or is this something where it's a little too much? Like, this person loves the fact that you're extra. They love the fact that you're spicy. They love the fact that you're opinionated. They love the fact that you won't settle for nonsense. They love the fact that you're like, you value your time, you value your emotional energy. You're very particular as far as like who you open your life up to, how much of yourself you give, and what you're willing to kind of receive or experience with another person as well. All of this checks off a lot of boxes for this person of like, yeah, this may be very different than what they are accustomed to in terms of the dating world or types of partners that they've had in their past. So maybe something where they kind of need to like learn this. They need to learn the rules of this game. They need to kind of learn how it is that you're showing up. And this is something where it's almost like there's no need to put on a mask. So the biggest resistance at this point in time for this person is almost kind of like, I don't need to perform. They're showing up as themselves. I can show up as me, and like giving themselves permission that it's like, yeah, that's really happening. This is really taking place in the here and now. This is that kind of like wish or dream or thing that I was like, yeah, I want to experience. I want to call this into my life. I want to manifest this kind of connection or, sort of frequency with another person. And it's like in the here and now. And so this is somebody that's almost like, okay, it's here. So it's going to require a different version of me. And so they keep kind of having to step into this reality that it's like, all of them is welcome in this situation because you're bringing all of you to the table. And that is something that it feels like they've never experienced before. Maybe even in like interpersonal relationships, they've been expected to, be the peacekeeper, be, kind of the performer that keeps everybody else kind of light and happy or, dispels tension. There was like a version of themselves that is expected, maybe even currently still, like in their professional life and in the family dynamic. But with you, it's kind of like I can take off that armor. I don't have to try to be something that I'm not. I don't have to like tuck parts of myself away in the closet and, just show up as this kind of cardboard cutout of myself, with like a limited sort of spectrum of intensity or emotions or, keeping a lot of my thoughts to myself or, the truth of sort of what resonates with me just so I'm able to kind of fit in with the pack, fit in with these people, fit in with, the nature of my job requirements or how I'm trying to present myself out to society. It's like almost a breath of fresh air that they can just be themselves, that kind of like messy masterpiece. They can do that in this situation with you. And this is not something where it's like, okay, great, here's an invitation to just slack off and I don't have to put in any effort and anything goes, because we're just kind of like hanging out and it's all free flowing and who cares. It's actually quite the opposite of that. This is something where it's kind of like there's a refined version of this person. There's like an aspect within that is undiluted by the opinions of like other people, or that has almost kind of been untouched by heartbreak or even love because they've never really showcased that to anyone before. That is kind of like peeking up from the surface within. You've activated like a curiosity in some sort of part of this person that is kind of like, hey, something that they had sort of just like stuffed in their shadow. Maybe this is the circumstance where that can be embraced, that can be accepted. Maybe the truth of like who they are as a person or, how love should be, how they would like partnership to be between two people. Again, that idea of two people that are, done playing games. They're done with sort of the nonsense or, just trying to kind of act a certain way in order to create like a picture perfect version, of what a happy couple should be. This is something that steps beyond that. This is something that offers an invitation at this point to redefine or to transcend what that's looked like for this person up to this point in time, or even what they've seen modeled in people around them. And rather than that being something which makes them fearful of like judgment or reproach from other people, or something where they're kind of like, ooh, fear of the unknown, I don't know, like that would be really cool, that would feel really good, that would make me really happy, but I've never experienced that before, so I'm just going to keep it at arm's length. This is something where it's like they're wanting to embrace this and pull you closer. They're wanting to participate more with you on that level because there's a sense like, I know I'm not gonna have this kind of feeling with someone else again, or someone else in a really long time. It's a rare kind of conjunction between the two of you, or, you know, something again that they thought almost like, I'm going to have to search long and hard until I find something like this. I'm going to have to go through this process of acclimating to showing up in my dating life as more of my true self, and trusting that that will kind of like weed out the individuals that aren't aligning with this more all-encompassing version of me, as compared to kind of like what it is that I'm seeking, where I'm just like free to be myself and the other person's free to be themselves. Like you've come online, you've arrived ahead of schedule, and so there's a part of them that is like leaning into this, is very alert to this, like, okay, I'm actively sort of like learning how to show up in this every single day. I'm willing myself not to kind of like get lost in logic, not to, you know, get cold feet, not to be in this energy of even getting like too excited for the fact of that you have arrived in this way in their life, and that this is kind of like they're giving themselves permission to show up as more of themselves, because they don't want that kind of level of excitement to like overwhelm you or to cause them to fumble this situation. So this is somebody that is like, they're putting a great degree of importance on how they're showing up for you. This is somebody that doesn't necessarily want to have to be, you know, kind of cautious with what they say, but there's like a mindfulness in the way in which they express themselves, both kind of the limits of where they're at right now, boundaries, or just like the threshold of sort of what they can give, what they're comfortable receiving, but then also ways in which, you know, they're sort of steadily opening beyond that, pouring into you in new and unique ways, because it's like, yeah, if anyone's deserving of this kind of like part of myself that has been untouched for better or worse as far as love and romance is concerned, it's you, because you've brought forth that sort of inclination within me that like, yeah, this is the right alignment, this is the right person to have this like new experience with. You also have courage. So again, this is somebody that feels very empowered by this connection. They're very empowered by the potential in the future between the two of you. This is not someone who is scared when they're thinking about long-term potential. This is almost like, I want to make sure I play my cards right so we get to that point. I want to make sure that, you know, I'm treading carefully in this circumstance, but I'm also showing up as myself, even when that's clumsy, even when I don't say and do all the right things, even when we disagree, when we have to agree to disagree, or we kind of go off in our own corners and pout for a little bit, you know, feel our kind of like bruised egos for a minute, and then we're stepping back towards one another with kind of a renewed zest for building beyond misunderstandings, or points that we don't necessarily agree on. Like, this person likes the fact that you don't necessarily see eye to eye with them on everything, that it makes for maybe like, you know, intense kind of debates, or, you know, where you're like, no, I don't feel that way, I don't want to do that, that's not something I really like. Or they themselves are kind of like, they feel empowered, or, you know, they've got the courage to kind of just like put their foot down in this situation, or just be like, no, that's not my opinion, I see that in a completely different way. You both might have different kind of like political views, you may have different kind of like, you know, views on society, you may have come from very different backgrounds, have very different kind of like outlooks on things, but this is not something that is leading into an energy of like, okay, it's just going to be toxic and we're a mismatch, and, you know, we're not able to kind of connect on deeper intellectual levels, or you know, emotional levels. Like, it's just going to be, the sex is good and that's why we keep showing up. No, this is something that this is calling this person beyond their comfort zone, and sort of like, yeah, I don't need someone that is just a carbon copy of everything that I say and do. I don't need somebody that is just kind of like parading around in my shadow, or wearing a mask and pretending that we align on these levels. I like the fact that you have your own opinions, and I like that there are things about you that I don't agree with. I like that there are things about you that are challenging for me. It makes it interesting. It creates potential for like ways in which to compromise, ways in which to expand outside of the territory of people I usually interact with, or types of people that I've aligned with romantically speaking. So this person wants to hear more of your personal truth. They want to know more about you. They don't want you to feel that you need to kind of like hide or dilute yourself. And there's a sense of like you haven't done that so far. You've shown up really raw, really authentic with them. And this is checking off so many boxes for them. It's making them very excited to like continue to pursue you, continue to build something in this connection. And like the idea of if this turns into long-term partnership, or if you got married, you're with one another for like a duration of time, there's a sense like this would never be a boring connection. Like, yeah, we connect on all these different levels where, it would be fun and exciting and worth our while to like, build in practical ways, but you're someone that would always keep me on my toes. I wouldn't know what to expect out of you in certain ways. Like your unpredictability almost, or the paradoxes about you, kind of the facets of your personality that contradict. This person loves that. They love that you have demonstrated that to them. They love that you're not just kind of like, yeah, whatever you want. Oh, sure. Yeah, let me just show up in this very like demure or agreeable energy. Like you've done that to a certain extent as well. It feels like you've toned parts of yourself down, or you're not kind of just like locking horns with this person for no reason or just to prove a point or to operate out of like an egoic energy, but there's a sense of almost like you respect certain parts of them, and kind of like you'll allow them to be right. You'll allow them to kind of like, have their moment in the sun, or stand in that energy of kind of like, yeah, your opinion is valuable. It's valid. Even if I don't agree with it, I don't need to like make you feel bad about that in any sort of way. But then there's also aspects of yourself where, you've pushed back. You've, asserted yourself in a way that might have even made this person kind of stunned. Like you stood up to them in some sort of way, or just were like, this is who I am. This may even have something to do with you being like a very free-spirited person versus this person maybe kind of like conservative, maybe sort of like, the life they grew up in, the family they grew up in, the type of job they have, or, even just their personality is sort of like they're one way out in public, and then there's like this other side to them that the people don't often see. Like even their inner circle might not really know much about this aspect of them. And yet with you, there's this energy of almost like you're showing up as yourself in many different circumstances. You're not concerned like with sort of the approval of other people. And that's very refreshing for this person. It's almost like, this is what I need to get out of my comfort zone. This is what I need to kind of relax a little bit more. This is what I need in order to let my own authenticity, even that need to have like a public version of themselves versus kind of like a private version of themselves. You've honored that truth in some sort of way. So it makes that sanctuary of those quiet moments of like who they are behind closed doors. This is like you're resonating with that. That part of them responds very well to this experience with you. And so there's this very empowered energy as far as what the future can hold. Yeah, we also have the source of all. So it feels like this person's intuition is letting them know to continue to pursue you, to continue to show up in this connection, to continue to kind of sit immersed in that energy of gratitude, like, okay, good. I've encountered someone that's bringing a very authentic experience to the table. And so I myself also need to kind of will myself to continue to show up as I am, to continue to show up and honor the nature of who I am, what I want, what I'm looking for, ways in which there may even be kind of a sort of a feeling of like I'm inexperienced dealing with someone who, as a romantic potential, as someone I'm, exploring like a loving partnership with. I don't have that experience. I don't have that kind of, data within my memory bank as far as like previous people that I've given my heart to, or that I've dated, or I've explored something with, or I've been crushing on in the past, that is so like true to themselves, is so self-aware, is so like free-spirited, or, just has kind of, that sense of centeredness within, to where it's almost like there's a sense of parts of this where you're sort of like setting the tone, you're leading in this situation. by showing up as your true self, giving that raw truth, and just kind of like, this is who I am in this moment. This is how I want to be seen by you, and that is, you know, in many ways unique and special, but also the same as how I'm presenting that out to everyone as well. They love the fact that like you don't really like wear a mask, you know, that you trust them enough, or maybe it's just like who you are as a person, where you're like, I'm not gonna filter myself down in order to sort of find something unique and genuine and deep. Like, I need to show up in that authenticity in order to kind of find that resonant frequency within another person. And their intuition is like, yeah, that's exactly what you've been wanting, that's exactly what you've been needing, it's exactly what you've been desiring. Now here's this person that's got that same kind of goal in mind, they got that same intention. But it's not just standing there with an open hand and like, okay, universe, bring me that type of person. No, this is like, you have become that love that you are seeking. So all signs are pointing to yes for this person. Their intuition is encouraging them to, you know, not just think about like the next conversation, or, you know, the next week's worth of interactions between the two of you, but it's like, start to do that future planning. Start to think 10 miles down the road. You know, start to anticipate like really good things happening, the best happening in this situation. You know, even if there's kind of like those experiences of aspects of the two of you that don't necessarily align very well, you know, their intuition is kind of encouraging them to look at that as, you know, just a learning curve, something where it's like you're adjusting your approach to one another, or holding space for those differences, that uniqueness within one another. Because everything within them is telling them like, they don't want to run from this connection. They don't want to run from you. They want to pull you in closer. They've magnetized you into their life at this point for a reason. And their higher self is kind of like nudging them like, yeah, this is right. This is something that would be a very different experience than you've had so far in love and romance. And this is everything that you kind of like need and require in order to get closer to, you know, living that dream of like a better experience, or like a more real experience in love and partnership than what they've experienced so far. So those are your messages. I hope that they resonated with you and that you enjoyed the reading. Like or comment to claim these energies. Subscribe to my channel if you'd like to see more content that I put out here. Don't forget to hit the bell button to get notifications every time I post a new video. And if you would like to book a personal reading with me, I offer those through my Etsy shop, and there's a link for that below. I hope to see you again in another reading. Please take care and be well.